to do either A, retarget them for just a short period of time, so you're not spending too much ad budget on the test, or B, you can even retarget them. And there's been a few times where we've actually run campaigns where it's just, there's no real action. It's just a thank you for shopping with us, or thank.
Yo, this is Christian D. Evans coming at you, host of Journey with Christian D. Evans podcast. First of all, thank you so much for listening to our amazing podcast. If you find this valuable, this episode, please share, like, and send this over to a friend, and make sure you leave a comment below that and show our guests some love. Secondly, also, very excited to be releasing, never before released to the open public, our Be Uncommon Mastermind, where I've had the fortunate opportunity to network and connect with our guest, 8 and 9 figure CEO and founders on our podcast. And I'm giving an opportunity for our listeners right now, 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs that are wanting to level up, they want to scale their business, want to take their life and business to the next level, and they know that they need to surround themselves with higher caliber individuals. So I'm giving you an opportunity to have access to my network. And I'm talking like Pascal Bachman, which ran a mid 8-figure business, Vinny Fisher, which ran four-time 8-figure business owners, as well as we've got Nick Cavuto, which has incredible network like Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, and so forth, JC Granger, David Valentine, Mandy Ellefson, so many amazing 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs. And so if you feel like you're stuck in a rut and you're on a treadmill and you feel like, okay, hey, I need to level up your treadmill. Okay, your business is not able to scale up, move to the next level. Guess what? Then you need access to my network and some of these amazing 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs. So make sure you go to christiandevans.com/mastermind-now. christiandevans.com/mastermind-now. The link is in the description as well. Make sure you click on that. Apply. You're going to have a conversation with me. You and I are going to see if you qualify. We're going to have a cool conversation, dialogue. And then what's going to happen is if you do qualify, I'll have you stuck in amazing 6-month, incredible, intensive mentorship with some of the amazing 8 and 9 figure, where you have one-on-one mentorship. You're able to have a conversation. You're able to connect, collaborate, have a custom plan on exactly where you're at and what you need to do to level up your game and your business and life. So that is christiandevans.com/mastermind-now, and make sure that link is in the description below. Until next time, remember, be uncommon. If you can, enjoy the episode. Cheers. Thank you so much for tuning into Journey with Christian D. Evans podcast. I'm your host, Christian D. Evans, and we have someone special on today. He is known for the robust marketing automation just synopsis, guys, and he is just a massive, incredible marketer. And so he has actually been a marketing-focused entrepreneur with 15 years of experience in multiple industries. He's developed his own marketing approach to marketing many different types of brands with a large inbound content strategy tied together with robust marketing automation, which we are going to dive in here shortly. He started his first business at age 17 that focused on marketing for the music industry, that then later pivoted into a boutique marketing agency for local businesses. He developed a marketing agency that specialized in the e-commerce industry, which scaled to 7 figures in the first 2 years, which led to a quick acquisition. He is doing it again, and he's the founder and CEO of BlueTuskr, a full-service marketing agency for e-commerce sellers that helps brands expand their search through robust digital strategies, targeting media buying, and data-driven analysis. And my guest, Andrew Maffettone. How you doing, my man?
Holy intro, man. That was great. I appreciate that.
Hey, well,
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Hey, I'm really excited about diving into this because obviously you have an immense amount of knowledge. And let's be honest, the e-commerce space has totally changed, and it's always changing. And I know you're an expert in this industry with just different strategies, which is really, really cool. But before we dive into that, kind of tell me first, kind of like, what drove you to get in the e-commerce space and scale a 7-figure business at a very young age?
So kind of like you mentioned, that super awesome intro. I was in it, basically it kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it really. It just slowly started to happen. So I started in the music industry working with like bands and venues. Then the venues wanted me to do some extra stuff that kind of turned into like hospitality/retail. Then on the retail side, it really started to grow for people who, that was when e-commerce was starting to pick up. So now I have a lot of clients are asking me to help them with getting their stuff online and starting to sell the products they have available there. And then from that, it was like, because I was strictly doing digital at the time, I had no choice but to kind of get into e-commerce. Then after I had exited that agency, I wanted to go back in-house for a little while and kind of get deep somewhere and kind of get a better understanding of what it's like to be in-house somewhere and deep dive into something. And I ended up going into an e-commerce company. Oddly enough, as time went on, the person I worked with, we had someone else in the same office who was talking about starting an agency for e-commerce, and I had my itch, so I went back into e-commerce digital marketing. So it's been a fluid, long ride.
No, see, it's so interesting because you, like you said, you were on the forefront of it before it became really like known as the e-commerce side of things. And so, because everybody's jumping into it, whether it's drop shipping, whether it's Amazon, FBA, whether it's Walmart, and there's different like sales funnels and stuff like that. But what have you seen change from before to now in the industry?
Well, one of my first jobs ever, my father owned a e-commerce company like 15 years ago. They were one of the first companies to be offered to sell something other than books on Amazon. Oddly enough, they shot it down, which he regrets to this day. But that was one of the first places I was able to like kind of get my feet wet and understand it. So back then, it was a complete just guessing game of trying to figure out what's working and what's not. Then jump forward maybe like 5 years. Facebook, it was just the wild west of doing anything and everything. You could get followers and that were all super engaging and get ads for like pennies on the dollar for clicks. Like it was absolutely amazing. Now it's just, there's almost no difference to me from digital marketing to traditional marketing that you would consider like from a print side or anything along those lines, because it's just you really have to be able to develop a brand and be able to showcase a lot of content to be able to stand out on the internet. Because if you think you only have one screen, so when you think about all these people are pumping out like billboards and print stuff, and like you go through different aspects through your day, they only really have one screen. So you got to work really hard to earn that real estate that they're going for. And that's really where I've started to see things change. Plus now what's really started to happen over the past couple years is the average consumer is very fluid in their shopping experience. They might go to a website, they might go to Amazon, they might go to your website and then go to Amazon, or maybe they like Walmart, or they go to eBay. There's so many different places that they can go to, and they could go in 6 different ways to get there. So that's now becoming a whole kind of like overarching, like the omni-channel approach, essentially, of trying to figure out how you can guide your customer to shop wherever they're most happy.
So with that being said, because your company BlueTuskr is known for obviously content marketing, search engines, social media marketing, web design, marketplace marketing, omni-channel approach. Out of those different approaches, or acquisition channels, I should say, what have you found is the most impactful? Definitely for e-commerce, because I do know the e-commerce space, you're talking sometimes tight margins. And I know a lot of times it's not really on the front of acquisition. It's more of, okay, hey, how do I keep this customer long term and keep buying from me? Because then obviously you have more of like a continuity side of things that create more volume or more revenue.
Honestly, it really comes down to the customer service side and then the user experience on the website, because essentially you could have the world's best marketing, but if you send them to a site that they just don't have a good experience on, they're not going to come back. And because of the cost per click now, or how much content you got to be pumping out to get people over to your site, it becomes very expensive to acquire a customer solely digitally until you start to really get some more organic growth, or you start to trend more word of mouth. So because of that, you really have to make sure that you have a lot of extra things in place to make sure that they're going to come back and shop with you, or you have to make sure that your margins are so tight and you're focused really on getting that customer acquisition cost as low as possible. If you have a product line where maybe they don't shop, several times a year, maybe they only need to buy something once, in which case that's a completely different story.
So with this, because you said kind of like a very nice flow, definitely from obviously the website design to the purchasing process to maybe upsells throughout the purchasing cart. What do you mean by that? Can you give us a little bit more detail in that regard? Because obviously people say, okay, hey, that makes sense, but like kind of what that looks like, what that visualize, as well as just making it very simple for them.
Are you referring to basically just the customer process from like beginning to end, the whole shopping funnel, essentially?
Well, yeah, when you say, because you said obviously making it very flow like, right? Very simple and very easy for the customer. We all have kind of a vision of what that looks like, but I'd love to get an expert advice on like, okay, what does that mean in regards to like more detailed? Hey, is it going directly to one product, one landing page, and then walking them through that process? Or is it, hey, here's a whole bunch of different items and it's confusion? I'm just curious.
So that kind of comes down to, it's a little dependent on the product line, right? Like if it's a product that just has a bunch of accessories and you're really only selling like one type of thing, you can probably get away with just sending them to a landing page, but sending them to your website does allow them to shop around a little bit. One of the things that we've really started to preach is allowing the customer to shop wherever they're most comfortable. So this happens a lot when we see, if we work with someone who, let's say an Amazon seller, they could be doing 7-8 figures, killing it on Amazon, then go to start their own website and completely within a month be like, I don't get it. Why am I not getting any sales? And they never realize, because you basically have to start your brand over when you go onto your own site. And so one of the things that we've started to propose is adding in on your product page underneath the buy now button, adding like an available on Amazon or available on Walmart, eBay, et cetera, and having it a button that actually clicks over to the listing. Because what we've seen is that when you first launch your site, no matter how big you are on any marketplace, the consumer's always a little skeptical if they haven't heard of you before. And if you don't have any reviews on your site, you don't have anything that's kind of showing any social proof, they get a little sketchy. So what they decide to do is they go shop elsewhere. I took this page directly out of my wife's book. She doesn't know anything about marketing, and I love it because I get to watch how she shops. And she'll get tagged on Instagram for something. She'll go to the site and they won't really have a lot. So she'll get curious about it. And so she'll go to Amazon. If they have a bunch of reviews there, she knows she can get it in a day or two. She shops there. And I've seen her do the opposite, where she'll find stuff on Amazon that she likes, isn't really sure about the brand, and will actually Google search them to see if they have their own site and if they seem legitimate or not. So because of that, what we started to think about was, if they come to the site and they're a little bit worried about shopping with you, we can send them directly to Amazon, where they can see all of your reviews, all of your, maybe all of your other products. If you send them directly to the storefront and have a product separated on its own product page, just like you would on your site, you don't have to worry about any competitors being shown or anything like that. And the one thing I realized is, when my wife would look at the site and then go to Amazon to look up the product, she would have to search for it, in which case all of the competitors would come up. So what we do is send them directly to the listing. And oddly enough, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Amazon released their own basically available on Amazon button. I think now it's called like Buy with Prime. And it's a JavaScript code that you can add to your website that links you directly to the product listing. So Amazon saw this and obviously has started to do it as well. I've been doing it for about 4 or 5 years, and then seeing Amazon do it is kind of like one of those like, oh, that's a nice win. So like, it just felt good. I got no credit for it. Of course, it's totally fine. But that's what we kind of do to try to make sure that, we're allowing the customer to enjoy their experience and shop wherever they're most comfortable. And of course, the one thing we always get from sellers that they're always like, why would I do that? Is because product margins. Like, you're going to spend money to get your potential customer to your product page. Then they're going to go to Amazon, and Amazon's going to eat some of your margin. What we always say is to start it that way, gain some traction on your website, have every bell and whistle you can think of to keep them on your site, whether it's, first time buyers get X% off, or having subscribe and save options that are a little bit better than Amazon's, or if you have like a referral program or affiliate program, or you have a rewards program or anything like that to keep them on the site. And then that way, after a while, once you've started to prove it out and you've gotten enough traction on your site, test getting rid of the buttons and try to keep all that traction on the site.
Well, I see where you're coming from in that regard. And it's actually a very different approach, because I've always known, or always thought of the process, hey, you want to bring them through your funnel, because obviously you can grab their email, you can grab their information, and that becomes its asset in itself. But like you said, it almost loses opportunity for higher sales and conversions, because maybe they are more comfortable buying something on Shopify or Amazon, for example, or Walmart. And the reality is, what you're doing is basically making sure you remove all the hurdles as possible, so that they are at least converting. And it doesn't matter where you're converting, because on the long term, on the back end, you're going to acquire them at another time. Now, let me ask you this, because I do know Amazon does not sell that information, or does not share that information with you for whatever reason, which is pretty tough. And I've heard that definitely in the e-com space. We want to drive traffic to them, because obviously the hurdle is really removed from that. But I'd love to kind of get your response. How do you get them back and grab that information, that asset, so that you can then retarget them through email, whether it be YouTube ads, retargeting, or Facebook or so forth. How do you still gather that information?
So on the front end of that for the website, obviously, if they come to your site and they click on an Amazon available on Amazon button, they leave the site, you are not getting their name, their address, their email, any of that fun stuff. You will be able to pixel them and be able to retarget them for X amount of time. One of the things we also usually suggest doing is taking with Google Ad Manager, having that button be an event so that you can negate them in certain ad campaigns, or if you want to retarget them in the future for certain ad campaigns, that's one way to be able to leverage them from an ad perspective. Once they get over to Amazon, obviously it's a little bit more difficult, but what we usually suggest to do is to have some kind of option within the product itself that can actually get them back to the site. So if you're doing FBA, you have to send all your product to an Amazon warehouse and they ship it out for you. So you know which products specifically you have that are sitting at Amazon. In that case, you can add and insert a card into any box or any packaging that you have from Amazon and suggest that they come back to the site. You can't incentivize them for reviews. There are like gray areas with terms of service. I've been doing it for 7 years now and haven't had anyone get yelled at for it or anything along those lines. But you can do things like offering a warranty where all they have to do is come back to the site and register for a warranty. Honestly, you can just throw up your email and you could say, okay, your product is now warranted, but now you've gotten their email address. Or you can do anything if you have something that has, maybe it's a consumable, or maybe it's something that has some kind of repeat purchasing, you can offer a discount for coming back and subscribing on your site or something along those lines. So there is, from a print aspect, adding some kind of like postcard or anything in the product packaging to get them back that will kind of start to get that data back over to you.
Well, that's really awesome insight. And so let's talk a little bit about, and I appreciate you sharing that, because that is a really good strategy. Now let's talk about like retargeting options. Do you retarget the same product to them and just more of what they just purchased, or would you retarget? And I'm talking about like retargeting in ads and things like that, because that's all you would be pixeling. Or would you retarget different products that are associated or very similar to what they bought and as an upsell?
So it's always going to depend on the product line, because one thing you don't know is once they go to Amazon, you can actually now, Amazon, as of I think like 2 years ago, has changed their rule where if you set up an affiliate Amazon account as a seller, you're allowed to do that. Even though it's a little bit double dipping, they do allow it now. A couple of years ago, they used to flag you and not allow you to do it. So you could actually track what was sold, but from an ad perspective, those platforms don't talk. So there's no way for that to work. So if you have a product where you're driving the traffic to the site, they click the button and you now have that audience pixeled in its own, category, depending on that product line, if there's something complementary or some kind of, or even if you want to pivot and do like a gated content sort of thing or anything along those lines, you at least now know that that person was very interested. So that is something that you could send ads to. The problem there, again, kind of depends on the product line, is you don't know if they went to Amazon and then shopped some of your other products as well and started purchasing, in which case you'd be retargeting them and they're already purchased. So the other thought there is to do either A, retarget them for just a short period of time so you're not spending too much ad budget on the test, or B, you can even retarget them. And there's been a few times where we've actually run campaigns where it's just, there's no real action. It's just a thank you for shopping with us, or thank you for checking out our products on Amazon. And it's literally just an ad that says, thank you for checking out our products on Amazon. Tell us what you thought in the comments, and we'd be happy to help you out. And then now your customer service team takes over and tries to get them over to the site. Once they shop on your site, all you have to do is start to run ads to them, and they'll be much more comfortable to shop with you on your website because they've experienced your product now. So you can even do, if you pixel them and are able to keep that data long enough, obviously with iOS, it's not as easy, but if you're able to keep that data long enough, you can wait 30, 60 days after they've purchased and then start to do like a, hey, come back and shop with us again on the site. Here's a 10% off or anything along those lines to get that person to come back to the site.
See, and these are really intricate details that I think in different strategies that are very, very effective. And I appreciate you sharing that. Now, I do know like search engine optimization as well as social media marketing, like influencer marketing. I know that's really big, like whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's, doing some sort of collaboration on YouTube or whatever, right? I've heard different strategies. And I do know that those obviously work because of course you can drive a lot of traffic. However, though, to me, what I've discovered, obviously working with the influencer side of things, they will not really help you. You have to come in. And what I mean by this, they will not help you. They will help you drive traffic, but they will not help you really develop the marketing strategy. So when you are working with an influencer, what is the best like landing page and process and sales funnel? Because my perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, is I don't want to drive them to Amazon webpage, because then they can just click off and just a bounce rate is really high. Would you want to drive them to a landing page, controlled, and obviously sharing testimonials and so forth, driving that kind of perception, and then obviously, like you said, having that Amazon button as well? I'd love to just kind of walk me through that a little bit. What have you found is the best kind of landing page conversion coming off of definitely working with influencers?
Either way, it's always tough, because when you think like, all right, we're working with influencers, you're thinking chances are it's Instagram, TikTok right now. Those are the two places that most of the influencers are spending a lot of their time, maybe YouTube. In which case, the amount of CTAs that they can offer are limited. Even on Instagram, if it's a regular post, you can't have one at all. You have to send them a link in bio unless they link to your product. If they link to your product, which they can, and a lot of them can now do, Instagram has been beta testing the ability for you to tag any product, whether your catalog is connected to an account or not. So it's allowing influencers to tag that product. That's going to take them back to the product page. You don't really have another choice. The other side of it is, even if an influencer says, go to this link, check this out, you're still going to have people that search a brand name or go over to your own profile. And, it's never going to be black and white. That's basically the biggest thing that's changed over the years, is that it's nothing is as black and white as it once was. There's so many gray areas now to how people shop. But depending on what the influencer is posting about, I would obviously ideally send them to a landing page, because I'm a big fan of, when you send a consumer somewhere, a lot of people say like consumers are dumb. Like, consumers aren't dumb, they're just lazy. So if you send them to a page with a ton of different links, they might get lost and like they get bored and they start clicking around, they leave and they go check out other stuff. If you send them to a landing page, they have one thing to do, and that's convert. So if they don't convert, they weren't interested. And you can make sure that you're painting the picture of whatever it is you're trying to sell in a nice, properly optimized funnel. So if I can, I'm going to send them to a landing page. One of the things we usually try to do with influencers, depending on the strategy that we're working on, is we'll compile, a big old list of all of them, get a bunch of them to sign off that they want to do something and so on. But then we'll actually wait and request all of them to post within like a 2 to 3 week time frame. So basically, it's almost like you're forcing that snowball effect, because a lot of people, when they do influencer marketing, they get an influencer, the influencer approves that they want to do it, they send them the product, the influencer posts it whenever the hell they want. If you can actually put it in a certain time frame, you're basically getting you're a giant category of people, of influencers that your potential audience is looking at. And then all of a sudden, it's like, all my influencer, all these people I follow are talking about this product. I have to check this out. Instead of it's just like if you were run an ad, if someone sees something once, it's a rule of 7, right? If they see something once, nothing might happen. They might be like, what is that? I don't know. But they see it 7 times and they start to question, like, okay, what's happening here? So if you do that with your influencer approach and send them all to a landing page during one certain time, maybe it's a new product launch, that's where you'll start to see a lot more success, because all of that additional branding from all the influencers within a smaller time frame.
Well, that's actually really, really awesome insight. So what you're basically saying, it's instead of throwing one big pond or one big rock in the pond, it's throwing a lot of pebbles all at once that create a lot more kind of, waves, if you will. And I like that approach. So though, would you, Andrew, tell me, would you do like a beta test before and just kind of run it with some like smaller micro influencers, and then maybe level up a little bit just to test your funnel? Because I'd hate to run something that's not tested directly to a landing page, or, and seeing what, obviously it converts at, 0.1% or something like that, when definitely with warm traffic, you want to be converting like 20-30%. So kind of walk me through that a little bit. Would you want to do a beta test and then kind of jump into more of higher level?
Usually what we'll do is, it's kind of a mix, right? So you'll find all your influencers you start to work with. They say they want to work with you, and then just go ahead and do something with them. Show them your entire product line, offer them something that they're interested in. So let them put their best foot forward on publishing something, and then see what the results are, what engagement you got, if you got any sales out of it, something along those lines, and see what that relationship with that influencer is like. Then think about sending them something that maybe they didn't pick, but like maybe it's not a product launch or something. It's just another little test to see how you're getting your results from your influencer Then from there, you'll start to see like, okay, I can expect X results from this person. So now when you do your product launch and you have everything set up, then you reach out to them. It's not something I would suggest doing like the first time, because sometimes you have these people that have thousands and thousands of followers, and even though their engagement rate's really high, they just can't get people to shop. And so it's kind of a mute point, kind of depends. But I would definitely say you want to test out the relationship with the influencer before doing a big product launch campaign or anything along those lines. Testing the funnel in itself, you might want to run some ads to it or anything like that. But if you're doing a product launch, you have a pretty small window and you want to do a big announcement. So you don't really have that much testing you can do, but you can kind of do like a soft launch sometimes, depending on what you're launching, and test it that way as well.
So what you're saying then is really just testing at a smaller level, just like you said, because you want to make sure that the things are working, but it's a relational kind of thing, right? It's building relationship. Don't expect to just do it overnight or like within 60 days. Hey, it's a relationship. Hey, send this stuff out and having that conversation. So let's say, because I do understand in the e-com space that from the people that I've known, they leverage influencer marketing much more than running paid ads, just because obviously the margins definitely up for YouTube. It's just the metrics are just not able to run sometimes through paid acquisition. Now, let's say, for example, they've really dominated influencer marketing. And I know you focus on like, omni-channel, social media, search engine marketing as well. What channel should they should focus on next? If they've already kind of dominated the influencer marketing, they got some things going, they got some sales. Is that, they got that concept going. What's the next acquisition channel you think they should add to their repertoire?
With influencer marketing, there's, kind of like it said, there's always that gray area. So I always ask like, all right, what's the next gray area next to this strategy we're working on? And that tends to be from a paid ads perspective. While that's not the next like major strategy I would suggest doing, the paid advertising side, I always go with the party analogy. So if you went to a party and I walked up to you and I was like, hey, I'm awesome, we should talk about stuff, you're gonna be like, this guy's weird, like go away. But if we're at a party and everyone else is coming up to you saying, hey, Andrew's awesome, you should talk to him, you're going to go to me and you're going to want to talk to me, right? So it's a similar concept with influencers, which a lot of these paid ads approaches, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're doing, when you're running ads as your own profile, you're essentially going to the customer and saying, I'm awesome, shop with me, I'm great, come here. But if you allow influencers to do it, and then you do something through the sponsored post side of things and allow them, they approve you to start boosting their posts and use their face as the ad, you're allowing someone else to say that you're awesome and that you should come shop there. So it's that kind of approach of having a cohesive influencer and paid ad approach work together. That's where you can start to see the influencer marketing side really start to work, because that's the other side of things, is that influencers, while you may ask them to post on a certain day and they may know the best time to post, sometimes it just doesn't work and doesn't go the way you want it to. So to give it that little extra love, it kind of helps to make sure that you're working with them from a paid ads perspective and just boosting their posts for them, or asking them if you can take the creative and put it onto your own profile so that you can test it that way. So if we're talking about like, what's the next thing I would look at if you're starting on an influencer approach, I would look at the paid ads side.
So it's not the paid ad side of like cold audience. It's leveraging the influences that you've already have. They have obviously posted something on TikTok or Instagram, and then basically just boosting their content of what they are talking about your product. That, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that correct?
Nope. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For TikTok, it's the what is it? Spark ads. So basically you can boost someone else's post. And then on Facebook and Instagram, they have the sponsored branded approach that you can do. So basically they'll approve you boosting their post. So it's their profile, their information. As long as they wrote it out, tagged your product and all that fun stuff that you want to make sure that they did, it's always the best way to do it, because it's not your ad, it's their ad. They just happen to be talking about you.
Awesome. That's brilliant. Now, would you add any retargeting side of things on Facebook or on YouTube or even Google search itself? Or not really? Because I do know that's pretty cost effective.
Yeah. So since the iOS change, you can only really get like enough solid data for, I mean, honestly, like 30 days is pushing it at this point. So a lot of times what I'm seeing now is that prospecting audiences and things like that just aren't working as well as they once did, but the retargeting is working just as fine. So because Facebook doesn't have enough data to actually be able to hyper focus on people like it used to, Now what you really have to do is have some really nice piece of content that people are really interested in, that they take action on and come over to your site. And if they don't purchase right away, you just have to make sure you have a nice retargeting funnel set up. So I always suggest having some kind of retargeting going.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now we talked a lot about on the front of acquisition, right? So let's kind of talk a little bit, because I think really the biggest money is made when you can, the lifetime value of that client, right? And we all talk about it and emphasize, but I'd love to kind of get your expertise. And I know there's different strategies, but I'd love to figure out, okay, Andrew, what strategies they should focus on that really get the best result, increasing the lifetime value. Is it adding more products to the baseline? Is it more of just upsells, or is it more of just that continuity basis?
So I keep saying this, but it's true. It kind of depends on your product line. And so if you think about, like, there's going to be certain products where you're going to want to make sure they just had a great experience. And if they ever need to come back again, great. Sometimes you sell things that, probably don't need to be replaced for years on end. So it is what it is. The other side of it is you have your basic stuff, like you can do a rewards program or something like that to incentivize them to come back. Everyone and their mother is trying to do a subscribe and save option right now. So the one thing that I've had a lot of conversations about, and so I actually just had one of the co-founders of Bold Commerce on my podcast. I was talking to him about it, and they're doing a big push on subscriptions. And basically what they were talking about, and which stands true to everything, is a lot of e-commerce sellers make the mistake of, oh, my product needs to get purchased every month, I'm going to throw a 5% off subscribe and save option on my site. And then like 2 months later, they look at it and go, no one's subscribing, this thing doesn't work, and they give up on it. But you have to think about, when people subscribe to something, they want that extra value. 5% off is not going to do it for something that they're going to get billed all the time. That you have to provide a ton of extra value. So what we've started to see a lot of e-commerce sellers do is start to create their own content that only you have access to if you subscribe, or surprise them with like smaller samples of things or anything like that you can possibly do within a subscription option. Or if you obviously have the thousands and thousands of different like boxes that you can subscribe to, that stuff changes every month. So it's kind of like a gift, and you're excited for it to show up, or you have access to something maybe you didn't have before. We have some B2B e-commerce clients that when they do a subscription side of things, they get access to like certain groups of people that they can have, networking conversations with, that basically it's like a membership fee. So there's a lot of different things you can do from a subscription side. And the thing that a lot of e-commerce sellers are loving about that is that e-commerce companies with subscription aspects go for a significantly higher multiple when they go to make an exit. So having a subscription side to it is something that everyone is trying to look into to figure out ways to do it. They just got to make sure they provide that correct value.
Well, see, that's what I always find interesting. I've got a brother-in-law that actually started doing FBA, and he sold a lot of these like fake plants. I forget what kind of fake plant, but it really doesn't matter. But anyways, and I said, you need to have some sort of continuity or upsell or something along that line. And we were talking about it. It was like, well, what else do you offer, right? It's a fake plant. It's just like a one transactional thing. But what is, right? And I guess that's a lot of times. Now, I know that may be basic, but again, there are certain things like, supplements. I know supplement is just, it's hard to even push that kind of product. The margins are good, but it's tough. However, though, I do know a lot of people, it's more of their strategy a lot of times is leveraging more of trendy kind of things, finding a lot of trends, running it for maybe 6 months, pivoting, and then running another product that's whatever that's trending, right? For example, I do know whether you like them or not, the Joe Biden stickers, right? A lot of those, I did that kind of thing. That was huge. That pushed. Margins were really good. They did a whole bunch of cute little bundles. They did upsells, but then all of a sudden, guess what? That trend is gone. And so what I always find with the trendy kind of companies, it's never able to, sustain. It's good to, push quite a bit and build that. However, though, what have you found in really creating, like you said, a stable, consistent business that, like you said, if you want to have an exit, that you can, that you're building a sustainable business long term?
In my opinion, you absolutely have to build a brand, and you have to build an audience. You have to basically build a community that whoever is looking to acquire you can leverage. No offense to your brother-in-law, but guys who solely do FBA, to me, they're in it they remind me of like back in the day, the eBay guys, right? Like they would buy a bunch of product from somewhere wholesale, throw it up on eBay, sell it, and then go find another product to do the same thing. And then once it got really, really competitive, they would just switch to a different product, which on FBA, it's not that big of a difference. I know a lot of people that have made a ton of money doing solely FBA, where they just find a product that they can tell based on using something along like a Jungle Scout or a Helium 10 or something like that, where they can see that there's, a lot of search volume, not that much competition. They go get it sourced, they get it made relatively cheap, put it up on Amazon, they sell through it for a while until the competition starts to pick up, and then they just try to find a new product, which is fine. And then with stuff like that, your imagery and your A+ content, your storefront, all that stuff is kind of pointless because you can't really have a cohesive brand around it if you're going to constantly be wildly changing product lines. So if you're looking to exit, especially if you're even as an Amazon seller, you need to have something that can diversify away from Amazon. Even like I've had conversations with, all these aggregators like Thrasio and Boosted and all those guys out there. And really what they look for is they want to know that your product line is not going to get any crazy competition anytime soon. You have a brand, you have a cohesive product line that works together. So you have different upsells and cross sells and things like that. And if you can, ideally, you have some kind of customer list that they can leverage as time goes on. Because when these aggregators buy one company, they're going to look at buying something similar so that they can share lists and work together to get customers to just cross buy different things from different companies they're working with. So not having a brand, you're really just putting together a really nice like operational side of things. And usually from that side with the FBA stuff, they just do everything they can to make sure that, their ad cost, when they're running ads, their ACoS is as low as they can get it so that they're making as much as they can, because you don't really have the opportunity to take it off Amazon and expand on it.
See, this is such a very valid point that I want to kind of emphasize, because there are a lot of people that have built some good businesses, and a lot of times now they're turning around and training and doing high ticket sales and stuff like that, teaching people how to do something along that line. But what I always found very interesting is, like you just mentioned, instead of pivoting really quickly, hey, run a business, run, and having it very transactional every 6 months, turn the dial, turn it and run with it. It's more of building something long term, but you have to really identify, okay, what do you want to do for the long term, right? Because if you don't want a transactional business. So because I had a friend of mine that he actually did, what was it? He loved fishing. And so he actually created like these small little fishing kind of things. Anyways, he created a bundle. I think they're like little flyers or whatever, I don't know what kind of specific thing, but it doesn't really matter. And that was his e-commerce thing. That was his thing. But then he upsold other different like little like tools. Now it was a very small and sub niche, but obviously fishermen, they really loved it. And obviously he upsold, and then he also had a continuity of a community, and they have access to a Facebook group, and he was just, engaging with people, and he just loved talking about fishing and different strategies and whatever. And he grew that to almost a mid 7-figure business because he built that community, and he enjoys just talking about fishing. But he also obviously sells all sorts of different, little snippets and whatever you call them. I forget what they're called, but and frogs and tadpoles and all sorts of things. And so I guess what I'm talking about, Andrew, is like what I've figured out. It's not a matter of turning and burning, like you just said, but it's more of building something sustainable. But when you're talking about subscription models or subscribe and save, what have you found is like a very effective way? Because you said community, so let's kind of dive into that. I guess is like, okay, when you talk about community, how do you engage that community on a consistent basis? Is that like Facebook groups? Is that, hey, doing a podcast? Is it just going live every week, talking and training? Because some communities, it's going to be hard to build a community around selling small dumb plastic flowers, right? But if you have a community of fishermen, hey, that's something cool that people would buy for. So I love to kind of talk a little bit about that and like properly positioning that community, because I do know long term that's how you really build the wealth.
So kind of like you said, honestly, the fishing one speaks for itself. Very, very tight community. They love finding out about new stuff and new tricks, and you could come up with like cool fishing spots and like put out emails and stuff like that just to keep everyone engaged and all that. Let's talk about the dumb small flower thing, right? The thing that I always find interesting that most people don't do, which is basically that small fake plant that you're buying at home, essentially home decor for the most part, right? Huge opportunity, ton of different things that you can get into. The problem with home decor versus something along fishing is fishing, you might be able to get very specific towards what it is you're trying to find as a consumer, right? So like, okay, I'm trying to catch X fish. I'm having this problem. Let me search for this. If someone searches fake houseplant, countless things are going to come up. Or if someone searches like cool picture for my house, like ton of stuff. So what I've always thought about is, if you are able to find something, let's say from an FBA standpoint, and you're able to just get it, source it relatively cheap, start to do well, take it off Amazon, leave it on Amazon, but also take it off Amazon and consider a drop shipping approach. I hate drop shipping. However, the thing that I think is the way that I think drop shipping should be utilized is more of a market research side of things. So if it was your brother-in-law who did the plant, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say your brother-in-law took it off Amazon, developed a Shopify site, put the plant on Amazon, on Shopify, and then drop shipped every single home decor thing he could think of. Now he can start to build a community of people that are really into decorating their homes. You have people who do it for a living that decorate homes, and you can go through and start to build that community. What happens is, as people start to shop, you're going to get data on which products that they're interested in. Obviously, you're going to want to cater to your own product, or maybe all of your advertising is going towards your own product, which running an ad for a fake plant might not be the best idea, but this is the example we started with. But then you're driving all the traffic to the site that way. You can see what people are buying, and then just look at, okay, I'm selling a ton of these. I'll go private label my own of that, and then take that one off your site. And now you have 2 products. And then you see what else is did. Then you have 3 products, and it starts to go along. And now all of a sudden you have a big product line of exactly what the people on your site want. And you're just using other brands' products to learn what it is that your community is interested in.
See, I like that approach for so many reasons. One, it's very actionable, but also it's very data driven, right? It's not me trying to guess, hey, what do my customers want? It's really just being able to beta test very quickly, put a product out, boom, all of a sudden. And what I love about talking about this as well is it's a very stupid subject, but it's a very relevant conversation, right? And the reason why is because honestly, there's a lot of stupid things out there, right? The fidget spinner, all sorts of stupid things, right? And the reality is that we can turn and burn, like we said, but how do you really build the long-term community? And I think a lot of people struggle on that community because honestly, I just want money, make money. I want to just produce, right? And whatever. And you need to talk that intermediate. And don't get me wrong, you can make 50, 70, $100,000 a month on some of this stuff, right? Turning and burning. But the thing is, it's not going to build a sustainable, consistent wealth producing asset. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the, you were saying, okay, how do we build this community, but also how do you build continuity where it's, subscribing and saving? Is it more of upsell in that situation? So let's take the fake plant and giving access to this community. Is it a paid community, or what would you suggest to build continuity around the stupid fake plant?
I wouldn't do a paid community. So for that one specifically, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest are most likely going to be your top ones, right? Because of basically who that audience is. TikTok, you could do real quick, like videos about how to decorate certain aspects of your home and just make sure to include the plant every now and then. Instagram, you could do something relatively similar. Facebook, you might be able to incorporate a group. Facebook groups, even though Facebook is definitely dying off on how many people are using it, people still love the groups aspect, and Instagram and TikTok don't have anything similar. So being able to kind of keep the community communicating with each other as opposed to you constantly delivering the message, I love it, only because at that point you can see what everyone's talking about. I even have some sellers where they'll be like, we think we want to get into this product line, we just don't know if anyone's going to like it. If they have a Facebook group, you just go ask them, make a post and be like, hey, we're thinking about making this product. What do you guys think? I rarely suggest to make it paid unless you have a subscribe and save and there's some kind of additional value to being in that group or in whatever group you choose. Like, we do have some sellers where they'll have subscribe and save, and people who subscribe, they're the only ones that get certain newsletters, whether it's, early product releases, special discounts, early releases for big discounts they might be doing, or something along those lines. But if we're talking about like a group or something, I rarely suggest to make it paid unless you can prove some extra value behind it.
Because in this space, and I'm just thinking about specifically like high ticket stuff, I know like a lot of, coaches, consultants, people are fine with spending, like continuity, like $199 or $99 to get access to like an elite group, right? And the reason why is because they talk and network and connect and so forth. But in this situation, I definitely agree with you, because you want to make sure that the cost of barrier to entry is very low, so that it's just more of engagement. And then obviously that's just warm sales, right? You can push out a product into your group, boom, all of a sudden that conversion is like 80% because people already know, like, and trust you, and they see the value in it. And so building that community. Now, I do want to pull back for 1 second and kind of pivot into something that you mentioned earlier on in our conversation, is about that customer journey, right? Really making people feel like, wow, that was an amazing experience. I love just opening the box. I love just experiencing the product. Kind of talk a little bit about that, because to me, there's so many different things, creative things that I've heard people do. And I'd love to kind of see what you have in your belt that you've seen that really help people just engage with the product itself. Because again, it's like, I've had individuals where they've somehow facilitated almost the customer when they're opening. It's like that they've done a lot of like TikTok or Instagram kind of reveals. Oh, I'm gonna, I want to live stream this because I'm so excited about this ABC product or whatever. And now it's almost your customer is pushing out organic, reach and tagging you in it. And I've seen that's how a lot of people go viral because of that situation. So at a higher level. So I'd love to kind of hear kind of what are some things that really help just really emphasize that customer journey, and really, just even leveraging them to post about you.
I'm a big fan of always surprising them with something. So if let's take the fishing product approach, right? So someone goes on your website, they buy this fishing product, it shows up to their house, they get the fishing product, end of transaction, right? But that this community is buying this fishing product because they want to be better at fishing. They want to catch more fish. So here's the product you ordered. What else can I put in there that's going to help you, right? Like, what extra value can I provide that you weren't expecting, that you didn't know was going to come? So let's say, I don't know how possible this is, but let's say that, your buddy is able to understand the certain state that they ordered it from. Based on that state, they get a certain insert, and it's all the top fishing places in that state, or it's all the fish that you can catch, and a calendar of when they're swimming, when they're around, if they're on the ocean or not. Or maybe it's some bait tips based on the product they bought, or maybe it's a sample of some bait that they have available, like fake bait that you can buy. Maybe they have like one or two, be like, hey, give these a shot, let us know what you think. Anything along those lines. Just anything you can do in the box to provide extra value, depending on the product. Like the plant, not too much you can do with that. I don't really think I would invest in like a super nice box and a big glitter explosion when you open it, but it'd be kind of fun. I bet you people would actually put that on social. So I take that back. Actually, that might be interesting to try. But from the fishing side, that could be like, hey, these guys are fishermen. Like, let's make this, give it a fishing feel to it. Like, have it be an experience when they open it. Then to keep them going after that would be really, in my opinion, it's how you kind of approach your own social. Of every time, put some kind of insert in there and be like, the first fish you catch with this, and I apologize, I don't know what the tool is, but let's assume it helps immediately. It's like on the end of a hook, right? So the first thing that they actually catch with it, tag us on at this URL, and we'll reshare every fish, your first fish caught with this. And then all of a sudden, when they start to see you on social, they see all the fish that people have caught with it. And now it's like a game. It's like, who can catch something better with this? Who can catch this? And then people love the extra recognition, whether they want to be influencers themselves or whether they just have social media just for them, just for like friends and stuff. If some big company shares their stuff, they're still going to love it. And if they don't, their stuff's set to private, and then that doesn't happen. But at least from that point, you're getting extra content. You're getting all these things that you can leverage as time goes on. If you love the picture of the fish that they sent, you can reach out to them, ask them if you can use it for your future ads. There's so many different aspects you can leverage that stuff for, but getting them to do it really just comes down to tell them to do it and then make it fun. Give them some kind of incentive for doing it. You can even offer them some kind of discount on whatever. If they post something, like, just tag us and we'll shoot you a discount code, which you can do now as of August. Is it August? I think it was August. ManyChat, which is the automated DM platform, you can actually set up where if someone uses a certain hashtag, or if someone tags you, it will automatically DM them in Instagram with whatever it is you want. You can just say thank you, or you can send them a coupon code or anything like that. So you could have something in the box that says, catch your first fish with this, tag us using this hashtag. And the second they get tagged, it can automatically DM them some kind of discount code for, whatever else that is they have on the site. So there's a ton of different ways to incentivize them to actually keep talking about your company after they've made the purchase.
Wow, I love that. That is some deep, deep stuff and just immense, like high level strategies. And honestly, Andrew, I don't know why we're talking about the fishing because neither one of us know what the heck this stuff
Yeah, I don't
is.
even know
But
what it is.
I'm glad we're entertaining because again, I think bringing in, me specifically as well as our audience, a lot of just creative aspects behind it. Because I think so many times we always look just dollars and cents. It's like, okay, I'm just going to shove this in a box. Boom, there we go. And it's just again becoming transactional instead of this journey, right? This experience, and
Mhm.
really facilitating that experience. And then as well as I think to me, it's like word of mouth is the best marketing ever, right? Just
Yeah.
because it's just how it is. But you need to do it correctly and really having that, facilitating that incredible engagement. That's awesome. Well, man, hey, Andrew, I really appreciate just diving into some really, really high level stuff, talking about different strategies that you've been able to use for a lot of your different companies. Before we let you go, though, I'd love to just kind of hear maybe like a few stories that you've had of clients or something like that that have experienced kind of just your massive skills, and by leveraging a lot of your skills and BlueTuskr company being able to obviously kind of be able to produce that kind of result. So just give us a kind of a few examples of what they were and where they're at now.
Oh man. Okay. Let me see. Try and think. So we just did a couple case studies. So I think I can pull some out of my head. um, all right. So we had a B2B company that sells like these big old massive concrete grinder things. I think the cheapest one they have is like $3,500 or something like that. And so very high ticket B2B approach, still e-commerce. They're on both HubSpot and Shopify. So we had to have essentially a regular transactional approach, but also a lead generation approach. When I started working with them, I think they were getting like maybe 5 or 6 leads a month. And I don't know, they were doing like few grand a month on their website, if that. A lot of the business they were getting prior was mostly like through distributors and other people doing the work for the most part, or past relationships that they had. And so we sat down, and one of the things that we talked about was like, look, I think that we can still get people to convert on Shopify, which is going to be the biggest problem, because for a really high ticket item, very rarely are you going to get someone who is willing to spend that amount of money without speaking to someone about the product first. No matter how in depth you make this product page or how much information you provide them, they're going to be a little skeptical and want to hear someone out before they do it. Then when they go to rebuy in the future, then it's not as big of a deal. So one of the things we started to implement is like, okay, we have basically two approaches. We have a purchasing, like direct sales approach, and we have a lead side approach. I go, we need to find a way to merge them. So one of the things we talked about doing was, let's add like a book a demo type of button on all of these product pages underneath the buy now button. So they had a couple different options. And this way they can speak to someone. And so then we set up a funnel through a lead generation page with a little bit more information on the product line, and then started to basically allow people to go there while also sending traffic directly to that page, just without going around the product page to net new customers. This allowed the sales team to kind of have a conversation with people. But what they would do is we would actually have them walk them through how to purchase it on the website, so that A, they can get all the transactional emails they still want. B, now I know what they purchased. I have all that data. I don't have to bother the sales team about making sure they put it in correctly. And then I can upsell them on, they have a ton of different like tools and accessories and repeatable stuff that you have to buy for it. So now I have a bunch of different upsell opportunities I can send them down. Plus, as they're going to check out, they're seeing additional things that maybe the sales guy hadn't talked about. So now we're still getting that information into Shopify. We're keeping the relationship, the individual relationship of that customer within HubSpot and leveraging a lot of their marketing automation. So basically we started with them it was late 2020. And then, so we just wrapped up their case study that I think we did 2021 versus 2020. So I honestly would have to look at the case study to remember what it's at, but I looked at their numbers last week. They're doing anywhere between 35 to 45 leads a week now, whereas before they were doing like 4 or 5 a month. And their CPA is actually a third of what it was. They were closer to around like a $200 mark. They're around a $60 to $75 mark per lead right now. Their conversion rate on their website is significantly higher. It's a bit tough of a judgment because we have to look at purchases as well as leads because we consider both of those conversions. However, they're far beyond a lot of their competition. And now we're starting to get a lot of guys that are just coming to the site. They're showing up direct, they're showing up organic and just typing in the company name directly. And it's from a lot of word of mouth because this is a community that talks. So we implemented a Facebook group where these guys can join each other and talk to each other and talk about different ways to do concrete grinding and how to improve their business. We started to look into developing a subscription aspect where it's like, you almost think of like a Peloton kind of vibe where they'll have access to content of where we have people that can just constantly be putting out things about here's how you can market your business. Here's how you can do this. So now we're trying to just provide them extra value. When in reality, we're only making money off the different machines that are purchased. Their social media has started to do really well. They were getting 0 leads through social advertising. They're now getting probably about, I think it's about 60% of their leads right now are coming through there. And from an SEO perspective, over the course of last year, their overall organic traffic was up 100, I think it was 125%. But the thing that we always care about the most, because to me, organic traffic is just a vanity metric, is that the lead generation and purchases that they were getting from that traffic is also up at the same rate. So we know we're still driving a relevant audience. So that was one that was just clear as day. We were like, this was great. This was awesome. We knew this would work. And now we have someone else who's more direct D2C, just your traditional, they sell collegiate apparel. So super fun. I love talking like college football and stuff like all day. So social is great for them. Their engagement's doing fantastic. They're one that we've implemented the Amazon button for. So they're not only getting a lot more traction on their website and seeing a lot more people coming back from Amazon, but their Amazon business is doing much better, which is kind of for them what we're really focusing on, because them competing with like Fanatics is a nightmare. But they're another one where we've started to see some serious growth, and they're already probably looking at, I think they'll at least 2x this year, and they're an 8-figure company. So that's a pretty significant number.
Wow. And see, what I love about that is just like you said, the omni-channel side of things, right? There's just so many things, so many details that a lot of people don't see. And obviously leveraging, you and your company, you can basically take something very simply, know what the weak points are, what the red flags are, and be able to deploy a strategic marketing plan that will actually produce the biggest result. That's awesome. Andrew, how do our audience reach out to you, just be part of your community and just be part of what you're doing, man?
Yeah. BlueTuskr.com, BlueTuskr. There's no E in Tusker. We're at BlueTuskr on all social media channels. I'm at Andrew Maff on all social media channels. I have a podcast as well called The Ecom Show, where we interview different e-commerce sellers each week, or if some influencers that are in the e-commerce space, things like that. And then we also have a weekly newsletter we do called Click and Conversion that's solely focused on e-commerce. It's got like a morning brew kind of vibes. It's a little lighthearted. But that's, and then our YouTube channel, of course, which is also at BlueTuskr, but we pump out as much content as we possibly can.
Awesome. And guys, those links will, hey, I love it. I love it. Awesome. Those guys, those links will be in the description below. So make sure you guys just be part of that, consume that content, whether you're in e-commerce or whether you're in the high ticket space, no matter what, there's a lot of different strategies that Andrew and I talked about that could really facilitate the best result in your business. So definitely reach out to that. Andrew, before we let you go fully, again, just appreciate the immense value that with the detail that you were able to bring in different strategies. But is there any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience, my man?
Get to know your customers. Way too many people think like, oh, I have to be on Instagram, I have to be on TikTok, I have to be on here, but you need to know where your customer is and where they're at to join the conversation and get involved with them. Don't just assume they're everywhere. Then pick a channel and stick to it until you feel like you've nailed it. Then go to the next channel. Don't go wide and try to be a master at everything, because it's never going to work. And you're going to immediately start doing something and then think like, oh, this doesn't work for me. When in reality, you just didn't do it correctly and you didn't give it enough of your focus. Instead, you spread yourself too thin. So that's the biggest mistake I always see get made.
I love it. I love it. That is just really like almost $1 billion mindset, honestly, $1 billion mindset. Andrew, I appreciate the time that you brought in. Guys, that is Journey with Christian D. Evans with Andrew Maff. And remember, be uncommon if you can.
Yo, this is Christian D. Evans, Journey with Christian D. Evans podcast. We thank you so much for listening to this amazing episode. If you feel and you know that this was valuable to you, please show some love to our amazing guest by liking this, by commenting on this, by making sure that you do a nice 5-star review and just show some love to our guest. That'd be really awesome. Also, make sure you share this with a friend, a family, a colleague, someone that you believe would bring value to their life right now. And guys, we just want to say thank you again for just being part of our community. If you want to have more resources, don't be afraid. Go to christiandevans.com. You can actually schedule a phone call with me, or you can send me an email at christian.evans@beUncommonIfYouCan.com. That's christian.evans@beUncommonIfYouCan.com. Always love to hear some feedback and let me know what is the number 1 or 2 things that you are struggling in your business and your life, and we'll make sure we have those conversations. Guys, that is Journey with Christian D. Evans podcast, and until next time, remember, be uncommon if you can. Cheers.